Snow whispered against the window pane as I sat alone in my dark apartment, the blue light of my laptop painting my face like frost. Outside, the city sparkled with laughter and Christmas lights. But inside, the silence was thick enough to choke on. I wasn't lonely, I was forgotten. Then, between the endless scroll of strangers' happiness, I saw it. My family's perfect Christmas photo. My parents, my brother, his glowing wife, their golden retriever, a roaring fire, a cabin I'd never been invited to, and in that frozen instant, I realized I had become a ghost in my own family's story. The snow fell in soft, relentless flakes against my apartment window, each one adding another layer of insulation between me and the Christmas cheer I could feel, vibrating through the city. Inside, the only light came from my laptop screen, casting a blue glow across my face. I scrolled mechanically through my social media feed, a curated parade of other people's happiness. Smiling couples in matching pajamas, families gathered around tables groaning with food, children tearing open presents with gleeful abandon. I observed it all from a great silent distance, a ghost at life's feast. Then I saw it. The post from my mother. Merry Christmas from our family to yours. The photo was professionally lit, even if it was meant to look candid. My father, Richard, had his arm draped possessively around my older brother, Leo. My mother, Carol, beamed beside Leo's very pregnant wife. Clara, their golden retriever, Duke, was sprawled artfully at their feet. They were in a rustic, beautiful cabin I'd never seen before, a roaring fire in a stone hearth behind them, a towering Christmas tree dripping with tasteful, coordinated ornaments in the corner. The timestamp showed 3 hours ago. 3 hours they had been celebrating, and not one of them had thought to pick up the phone. My own phone remained a dark, silent brick on the coffee table. No calls, no texts. Not even a forwarded, generic holiday meme. Just the same, deafening silence that had greeted me for 5 consecutive years. It was no longer an oversight. It was a tradition. The casual, unspoken agreement that Nova was the expendable one. The afterthought, the daughter who could be comfortably forgotten when the family portrait was being composed. I stood up from the couch, the movement sharp and sudden in the quiet room. The Christmas dinner I'd meticulously prepared for myself, a single, perfect serving of rosemary chicken, honey-glazed carrots, and roasted potatoes, sat cooling and untouched on the coffee table. The scent, which had been comforting an hour ago, now felt cloying and sad. I opened my laptop, the blue light stark against the dim room. A portal to a different future. The mountain property listing was still there, bookmarked from months of late-night wistful browsing. It was a modest but stunning A-frame cabin nestled deep in the Blue Ridge Mountains, a solid 3-hour drive from the city's constant hum. 3 bedrooms, a massive stone fireplace, and 12 acres of dense private woodland. The price was a number. I knew by heart, the exact sum sitting in my savings account, the money I'd been hoarding for a down payment on a life that finally, truly felt like my own. Before the familiar voice of doubt could whisper in my ear, I filled out the contact form. The realtor, a woman named Maya, responded within minutes, despite it being Christmas Eve. Looking for a Christmas miracle? Her message read, punctuated by a winking emoji. Something like that. I typed back, my fingers flying across the keys. Can we make an offer tonight? Full asking price. All cash. Quick close. The digital paperwork appeared in my inbox. I signed each page with a trembling finger, the electronic signatures feeling both insignificant and utterly monumental. The final click to transfer my entire savings, every dollar I'd scrimped and worked for, was a leap of faith. The confirmation screen flashed. It was done. I was the owner of a mountain house. A strange, giddy mix of terror and exhilaration washed over me. I took a photo of the signed documents, the set of keys Maya had promised to express mail visible in the attached image. I posted it to my small private Instagram account, the one only a handful of close, trusted friends followed. The caption was simple, a declaration to myself more than anyone else. Bought myself some peace. New beginnings, my sanctuary. Then I powered my phone down completely, the screen going black. I ate my cold dinner, the flavors muted, and watched the snow continue to blanket the world outside. For the first time in years, the silence in the room didn't feel like a condemnation. It felt like a choice. It felt like mine. The illusion was shattered the next morning. The moment my phone booted up, it exploded into a frantic, buzzing fit. Dozens of notifications cascaded down the screen, all from the dreaded family updates group chat I'd muted years ago. My mother had screenshot my private, post and shared it with the entire extended family network. "Is this for real?" my Aunt Brenda had written. "What a stunning view." "Where is this?" asked a cousin. Then, my mother's message dripping with performative excitement. "Nova darling, why didn't you tell us you were property hunting? This is just the most perfect timing imaginable. Leo and Clara have been desperately looking for somewhere quiet and peaceful for the baby's first few months. We'll all help them get moved in this weekend." The responses flooded in, a torrent of heart eye, emojis and congratulatory messages, but none of them were for me. They were for Leo and Clara. In the space of a single night, my hard-won sanctuary had been seamlessly reassigned in the family narrative. It was no longer my fresh start. It was their nursery. The final blow was my brother's message. Simple and entitled, "Send the address. We'll take the master bedroom, obviously. More space for the crib and changing table." I stared at the screen, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. They hadn't asked. They hadn't said, "Congratulations, Nova. We're so proud of you." They'd simply assumed, as they always had, that my life, my achievements, my dreams, were merely resources to be harvested for Leo's benefit. The sanctuary I thought I'd bought was already under siege, and I hadn't even set foot in it yet. The war for my peace had begun before I'd even received the keys. The keys arrived 2 days later in a plain, unassuming express mail envelope. They were cold and heavy in my palm, 3 brass tokens that represented my escape. I didn't wait. I threw a duffel bag of clothes, my laptop, and a bag of groceries into the car, and began the drive to the mountains. The winding roads, climbing higher and higher away from the city's grimy slush, became a form of meditation. With each mile, the tight knot of anxiety in my chest began to loosen. I was leaving their world behind. When I finally saw it, the A-frame, standing proud and solitary against a backdrop of snow-dusted pines, its dark angles a stark contrast to the pure white landscape. My breath caught in my throat. It was more beautiful, more peaceful than any photograph could capture. The air was so crisp and clean it felt like I was breathing for the first time. The first day was a dream. I spent it wandering through the empty, sunlit rooms, learning the unique creaks of the pine floorboards, tracing the grain of the wooden walls, watching how the afternoon light painted moving patterns through the large, triangular windows. As dusk fell, I built a fire in the grand stone fireplace, the kindling crackling to life with a hopeful sound. I sat on the floor, wrapped in a blanket, and simply watched the flames dance. The silence here was different from my apartments. It was a comforting, alive presence, filled with the whisper of wind in the pines and the distant call of an owl. It wasn't lonely. It was whole. That evening, filled with a profound sense of contentment, I took a photo from the deck. The sun was setting behind the distant peaks, setting the sky on fire with shades of deep orange, fiery purple, and soft lavender, the snow below reflecting the brilliant display. I posted it with a caption that came straight from my heart. "First sunset in my new home. This is what gratitude feels like," my mountain sanctuary found. The digital world intruded with violent speed. My phone buzzed, the screen showing my father's name. I considered ignoring it, but a stubborn part of me wanted to hear him say it. "Nova," he began, his voice the familiar blend of disappointment and unassailable authority. "Your mother tells me you went and bought some rustic shack in the mountains." "It's not a shack, Dad, it's a home," I said, my eyes still fixed on the last embers of the sunset. Semantics. "Leo and Clara are driving up this weekend to see the place. They'll be taking the master bedroom, of course. With the baby coming, they need the ensuite bathroom." A cold calm settled over me. "There is no guest room," I lied, the words smooth and easy. "I had the second bedroom converted into a dedicated photography studio. It's full of expensive, fragile equipment." Silence on his end. I could picture his face, the frustrated flush. "Don't be difficult, Nova. You know they need this. Clara's blood pressure is up. The doctor said she needs calm. The city air isn't good for her or the baby." The city air was good enough for me to breathe while I worked the 3 jobs that paid for this house, I said, my voice quiet but steady. "That's not the point. And you know it," he snapped, his patience evaporating. "We are a family. We help each other. We support each other." "You mean I help Leo?" I corrected him, the old wound throbbing. "When has anyone in this family ever supported me? When have you ever helped me?" The line went dead, the familiar click of disapproval. This time, however, it didn't fill me with guilt. It filled me with a steely resolve. The next morning, I drove into the small town at the base of the mountain, Blue Ridge Hollow. The general store doubled as a hardware shop. The bell above the door jingled, and an older man with kind eyes and a thick beard looked up from behind the counter. "Help you?" he asked, his voice a low rumble. "I need the strongest deadbolt you have," I said. "And a good security camera system." He nodded slowly, assessing me. "First time living up here alone?" "First time living anywhere alone," I admitted. He gave a knowing grunt. "Smart to be prepared. It's peaceful up on that mountain." "But peace," he said, pulling a heavy-duty deadbolt from under the counter. "Peace needs protecting sometimes." Back at the house, I set to work. I installed the new deadbolt, reinforcing the strike plate with 3-inch screws that bit deep past the door frame and into the solid stud behind. The solid, resonant thunk of the bolt sliding home was a deeply satisfying sound, a physical manifestation of my boundary. The camera system was next. I mounted one unit facing straight down the driveway, another covering the entire porch. Both had motion sensors, night vision, and sent immediate alerts to my phone. I tested the feed, watching the grainy real-time video on my screen. I could see every approach. That evening, I made one more call. I found Sable Winters, an attorney in the nearby town whose website was as sharp and no-nonsense as her reputation suggested. I explained the situation, the history, the entitlement, the impending invasion. "Send them a clear, unambiguous, written boundary," she advised, her voice cool and composed. "Document it. Then we'll see if they respect the line you've drawn." I drafted a blunt email to my parents and Leo, carbon copying Sable. "To be perfectly clear, the mountain house is my private residence. It is not available for visitors, guests, or extended stays. I will not be hosting anyone, this weekend or at any time in the foreseeable future. Do not travel to this property. You are not welcome here without my explicit prior invitation." The responses were swift and venomous. "After everything we've sacrificed for you?" My mother wrote. "You're being hysterical and selfish," from Leo. They were angry. They were insulted. But notably, not a single one of them wrote, "We won't come." I sat on the deck that final night, wrapped in a thick blanket, watching a sky so full of stars it seemed impossible. The peace I felt was fragile, a tiny flame in a vast, dark wilderness, but it was my flame. And I was learning quickly how to be its guardian. The cameras watched the darkness, their tiny red lights like unwavering eyes. I had a cold, certain feeling they would be put to the test very, very soon. The calm was about to break. The first notification was a harsh, digital chirp that sliced through the pre-dawn stillness. I jolted awake, my heart immediately hammering against my ribs. 7:02 a.m., Saturday. The screen of my phone glowed in the dark room. Motion detected, driveway camera. I tapped the alert, and the live feed opened. The grainy, green-tinted night vision showed 2 vehicles creeping up my gravel drive. My parents' hulking black SUV, followed by Leo's pickup truck. Both were packed to the brim with suitcases, plastic totes, and what looked like a folded-up changing table. My mother emerged from the passenger side first, clutching a ceramic casserole, dish in her oven mitt clad, hands like a bizarre shield. Leo climbed out of his truck and, with a practiced, efficient motion, unfolded a white wooden collapsible crib from the truck bed. My blood ran cold. They had actually come. They had called my bluff. I pulled on a robe and moved to the front door, but I didn't open it. I peered through the peephole. My father, Richard, was standing with a man in a generic work jacket, pointing at the door. The man held a heavy metal toolbox, a locksmith. They had brought a professional to break into my home. My mother rang the doorbell, her voice a saccharine chirp. "Nova, honey? We're here. We brought a breakfast casserole. Your favorite." My hand trembled, but my voice was steady as I pressed the talk button on the intercom system. My words, amplified and distorted by the small speaker, sounded cold and alien in the frozen morning air. "You are trespassing on private property. You need to leave, now." My father stepped forward, his face a mask of tight-lipped anger. "Enough of this childish nonsense, Nova. Open this door. Right now. We are your family. This is ridiculous." The locksmith knelt, running a professional eye over my new deadbolt. "It's a good lock," he muttered, almost to himself. "Grade 1, reinforced strike plate." "Just get it open," my father snapped, his patience gone. That was the line. I backed away from the door and called the county sheriff's non-emergency line, my voice surprisingly calm and clear. "My name is Nova Bennett. I am at my property on Ridge Road. I have multiple trespassers on my driveway who have brought a locksmith and are actively attempting to break into my home. I have a no trespass order in the process of being filed with your office. The dispatcher's tone shifted immediately from bored to focused. Are you safe inside the residence, ma'am? I am for now. The doors are secure. A unit is en route. Do not engage with them. Stay inside. I watched the surreal scene unfold through the camera app. The locksmith's power drill whined loudly, a harsh screech against the metal of the deadbolt. But the bolt and the reinforced frame held. Frustrated, Leo started pounding on the solid wood door with his fist. Open the damn door, Nova. Stop being so dramatic. We're not leaving until you act like a decent human being. Then, the world outside my window lit up in pulsating red and blue. A sheriff's cruiser, moving with deliberate slowness, crunched up the gravel drive and came to a stop, effectively blocking their vehicles. Deputy Miller, a tall, imposingly calm man, emerged from the driver's side. Morning, folks, he said, his voice carrying easily in the cold air. He looked at the suitcases, the crib, the casserole dish, the power drill. Quite a gathering. Care to explain what's happening here? My mother launched into her performance, her hands fluttering dramatically. Officer, thank goodness. This is our daughter's house. She's not well. We're just so worried about her all alone up here. We're her family. We're trying to get to her. Deputy Miller didn't blink. He looked past her at the locksmith. Sir, were you aware that these individuals are not the legal owners of this property and do not have permission to be here? The locksmith, looking deeply uncomfortable, was already packing his tools with frantic speed. They told me it was a family lockout situation. The daughter was unstable and had locked them out. I want no part of this. He practically ran back to his van and sped away. The deputy then turned his attention to my family. I have a notice here, provided by Ms. Bennett's attorney. He held up a formal document. You are all hereby formally served with a no trespass order for this property, effective immediately. If you set foot on this land again, you will be arrested. Now, I'm going to stand right here and watch you load all of this. He gestured to the suitcases and baby furniture. Back into your vehicles, and then you are going to leave this mountain. The defeat on their faces was absolute, a crumbling mixture of shock, fury, and humiliation. There were no more words. In a tense, furious silence, they loaded their belongings, the symbols of their intended takeover, back into the cars. My father's knuckles were white on the steering wheel as he reversed. My mother was crying, real tears of frustration this time. They drove away, Deputy Miller's cruiser following them all the way to the main road to ensure their departure. I sank to the floor, my back against the reinforced door, my entire body trembling with the aftershock of the confrontation. The house was secure. The law had protected me, but the victory felt hollow and chilling. They had tried to drill their way into my life. The familial bond I'd once clung to had been severed, not by me, but by their own sense of entitlement. A profound sadness washed over me, cold and clear as the mountain stream behind the house. The battle was won, but the war for my peace, I feared, was far from over. The silence that followed the sheriff's departure was profound but short-lived. It was a calm before a different, more insidious kind of storm. By noon, as I was still trying to steady my nerves, my phone buzzed with a different, more formal tone. An alert from the county clerk's online portal. My heart sank as I opened it. There, filed against the parcel number for my land, was a document titled Informal Family Tenancy Agreement. It was a poorly formatted, single-page letter claiming that I, Nova Bennett, had granted my brother Leo and his wife Clara full-time, indefinite tenancy of the mountain property. The signature at the bottom was a clumsy forgery, a loopy, feminine scrawl that looked nothing like my sharp, angular penmanship. They hadn't even gotten my middle initial right. A cold fury, cleaner and more focused than any I had felt before, began to burn away the last remnants of my sadness. This wasn't just entitlement. This was criminal. Sable Winter's response to my frantic email was characteristically swift and icy. This is felony forgery and fraud. We are countersuing immediately. Do not engage. Forward everything. The paper war had begun. The physical siege had failed. So they were launching a legal one, building a castle of lies in the public record. The next salvo came via the United States Postal Service. An alert informed me that a change of address request had been filed to redirect all of Leo Stewart's mail from his apartment in the city to my private P.O. box in Blue Ridge Hollow. They were trying to establish a paper trail of residency. Shortly after, I received another alert, this time from the Department of Motor Vehicles. Someone had attempted to register a vehicle, a new Subaru Outback, to my mountain address. The primary applicant, Julian Leo Stewart. I became a digital sentinel, my laptop, my command center. I set up alerts for any activity involving my name, my LLC, Haven Pine Properties, which owned the house, or my property address. Every fraudulent document, every forged signature, every falsified application was meticulously screenshot, dated, and archived in a secure folder I shared with Sable. We were building our own fortress, one made of incontrovertible evidence. Simultaneously, my family launched a charm offensive on the social media front. My mother posted a beautifully filtered photo of a generic nursery mood board, soft, grays, pale yellows, a trendy crib. The caption was a masterpiece of manipulation. So incredibly grateful that our son and daughter-in-law have found the perfect mountain retreat for their baby's first home. So blessed. Family first, Grandma ready? She had geotagged the post to Blue Ridge, Hollow. The comments section was a flood of heart emojis and congratulations for Leo and Clara. I was being systematically written out of my own story, transformed from owner to a mere facilitator of my brother's needs. Sable's strategy was one of cold, hard facts, devoid of emotional pleas. We sent out a volley of certified letters to every relevant agency, the DMV, the local postmaster, the electric and water companies. The letters on Sable's official letterhead stated clearly that my accounts were under a coordinated fraudulent attack, that I was the sole owner and occupant, and that any changes required a verbal password known only to me and my attorney. We were walling them out of the infrastructure, brick by bureaucratic brick. The most audacious move came in the dead of night. A motion alert from the trail cam. I'd hidden near the community mailbox cluster, pinged my phone at 2:17 a.m. The night vision. Feed showed my father's sedan idling on the gravel shoulder. He emerged, looked furtively up and down the deserted road, and then proceeded to stuff a stack of thick, white envelopes, the same forged tenancy agreement, through the narrow slot of my P.O. box. He was serving me notice, creating a false record of delivery. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply downloaded the high-resolution, time-stamped video file and attached it to an email for Sable. The subject line was, Exhibit D, Attempted Fraud and Trespass. 2:17 a.m. Her reply was a single, satisfying sentence. This is the nail in their coffin. We are filing for a permanent protective order tomorrow. The psychological warfare continued. My mother called, sobbing so hysterically I could barely understand her. How can you be so cruel? We're your family. We just want to help you manage this impulsive decision. But the guilt-tripping had lost its power. The evidence was stacked in neat digital piles. I had the law, the truth, and a formidable attorney on my side. Their definition of help had always been synonymous with my surrender. This time I was not surrendering. I was fortifying. I added a second. Keyless deadbolt to the door and installed. Motion sensor floodlights that bathed the entire perimeter in blinding white light. But more importantly, I was fortifying my resolve. This was no longer a squabble. It was a battle for my very autonomy, and I was prepared to win it on every front. Physical, digital, and legal. New Year's Eve arrived, draping the mountain in a fresh, pristine blanket of snow that glittered under a pale, bright sun. The silence was profound, a deep, clean quiet that felt healing. This time, however, I wasn't alone in it. My closest friend, Maya, from the Wildlife Conservancy, and Ben, a fellow photographer I trusted implicitly, had driven up to stand with me. We were a small, determined unit. Seated around the roaring fire, playing cards and listening to soft music, the cabin felt warm, alive, and finally truly like a home. It didn't last. The familiar, dreaded chime of my security app cut through the music at 7:45 p.m. Motion. Detected, driveway camera. Then another. Motion detected, driveway camera. My blood turned to ice water. They were back. I moved to the window and peered through the blinds. 2 SUVs this time, not one. They crawled up the drive with a grim determination. My parents, Leo, a visibly uncomfortable and pale Clara, and a man in a sharp, expensive-looking suit carrying a polished leather briefcase. They had brought a mediator. This was their final calculated move, an attempt to lend their aggression a veneer of legitimacy. Deputy Miller, who I had preemptively called, radioed my phone. I see them. I'm positioned down the road. Your call, Ms. Bennett. They marched toward the porch, a united front of misplaced confidence. The mediator knocked, a polite, professional rap that was somehow more threatening than Leo's pounding. I took a deep breath, unlocked the door, and opened it. The cold night air rushed in. The mediator offered a thin, professional smile. "Ms. Bennett, my name is Mr. Harrison. I'm a certified family mediator. I'm here to help facilitate a peaceful, reasonable resolution to this unfortunate situation. Your family has a very generous offer for you to consider." My father didn't wait. He thrust a document toward me. "This grants Leo co-tenancy. Sign it, Nova. Let's stop this selfish charade and be a family again." I didn't take the paper. I kept my hands at my sides, my voice level. "You are in direct violation of a filed no trespass order. You need to leave my property. Immediately." Clara, standing behind Leo, burst into loud, wrenching sobs. "Please, Nova. I'm begging you. We have nowhere to go. The stress isn't good for the baby." Her distress seemed genuine, a pawn in their game. Leo's face twisted with contempt. "You see what you're doing? You're making your pregnant sister-in-law beg in the freezing cold? What is wrong with you?" It was a masterful play on emotion, designed to break me, but I was armored in truth. That's when Deputy Miller emerged from the shadows near the side of the house, his presence instantly silencing the scene. "I believe the lady gave you an instruction," he said, his voice calm but leaving no room for argument. He looked at Mr. Harrison. "Sir, I suggest you advise your clients to leave. The offer is no longer on the table. You have 30 seconds to get everyone into their vehicles and off this mountain before I start making arrests for violation of a standing court order." The mediator's face went slack with shock. He took a sharp step back, raising his hands. I was misinformed about the legal status here. I am not involved. I want no part of this." He turned and almost ran back to his car. The performance was over. My father's bluster evaporated, replaced by a look of stunned, weary defeat. The law was here. It was real. And it was unequivocally on my side. Without another word, they turned, a broken procession, and shuffled back to their cars. The engines started, and the tires spun in the snow as they retreated down the mountain, Deputy Miller's cruiser falling in behind them to ensure their departure. I closed the door. The heavy, reinforced thunk of the deadbolt sliding back into place was the most final, satisfying sound I had ever heard. Ben let out a low whistle. Maya immediately uncorked a bottle of sparkling cider. "To Nova," she said, her voice thick with emotion, and her unshakable, hard-won peace. I smiled, a real, deep, unforced smile, and felt a tension I had been carrying for years finally dissolve. The war was over. I had protected my sanctuary, not just with locks and lawyers, but with the unyielding strength I had found within myself. The next morning, as a brilliant sunrise painted the snow in hues of rose and gold, a final email arrived from Sable. The permanent protective order had been granted by a judge. My family was legally barred from contacting me or coming within 500 feet of my property for 3 years. I walked out onto the deck, the cold air filling my lungs. The mountain was silent, majestic, and undeniably, irrevocably mine. I had bought more than a house. I had bought my freedom, my peace, and the right to my own life. And as I stood there, watching the new day dawn over my domain, I knew with a calm certainty that no one could ever take that from me again.